Hello, welcome to this episode of the Martial Truth. Before we start talking about what is karate, we hit over 14,000 subscribers. I just want to thank everybody. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you all. We blew by it. We're already up to almost 14,100. So I just want to again thank everybody. I mean, I never thought this kind of stuff would happen, and we just keep gaining momentum. We just finished our annual workshop with Master Chen Zhanghua from Chen Style Taijiquan Practical Method, of whom I've been his disciple for over 25 years. And he was here for the workshop, and I conducted another interview with him, which will drop next week. All right. So as always, if you enjoy the videos, please click that like, share. If you're not a subscriber, consider becoming a subscriber. Helps me out a lot. And consider becoming a member. All right. We're constantly dropping members only contact. And this week we'll get back into that. Seeing as a little bit busy with the workshop and my Sherfu being here, doing extra training with me, which I appreciate. And now he's off to the Midwest, and then he's off to my old school in New York to conduct further workshops. Okay. If any of you are interested in those, you can just look on his website, practicalmethod.com, and click on the workshops tab, and you'll see the list, and can click on the workshop and see who the contact person is, and you can contact them. There's still, I think, space available at the workshops, so feel free to do that. I highly recommend it. Highly. All right. It will give you a new perspective on the martial arts. So, without further ado, let's talk about what is karate. So, what is karate? Another thing I could have titled it is what makes up karate? What topics are in karate or should be in karate? All right. And when I talk about this, of course, I'm speaking of karate as a martial art. All right. So again, if you're strictly doing karate as a sport, probably this won't apply to you. All right. But if you're saying you're doing karate for self-defense, well, this will 100% apply to you. So what are the elements that have to be in karate to make it a viable combat art? Okay. So simple one. Everyone does with karate, striking techniques, right? Atemi waza striking techniques, all right? Those striking techniques should have scary power, okay? So you should be able to, literally punch a hole in somebody, kick a hole in somebody. So you want to have that tremendous power, all right? So in terms of strikes, karate should have incredibly powerful strikes. The delivery method should be a serious delivery method, meaning how to use your body properly, and strikes is one of the core components of karate. So that's one thing that 100% has to be in karate. Okay. What else? Well, what else? Let's say Kansetsu waza. So Kansetsu waza is the study of joint locks. Okay. So you have to have joint locks in karate. And I know right now, and I'll speak from Ishinru, I know right now there's Ishinru people watching this that were probably never shown a joint lock. And I know there's a lot of other karate styles where they've shown maybe one or two joint locks or no joint locks, okay? You need to have joint locks, all right? 100%, all right? All you have to do is watch the video in 66 of Master Shimabuku demonstrating with Steve Armstrong Sensei, and you watch Master Shimabuku doing all kinds of joint locks on Steve Armstrong. You'll also see him doing throws on Steve Armstrong, and not just hip throws, joint throws, okay? We'll get to that later. So joint locking techniques, vitally important. All the joints. So you want to have joint locking techniques to cover as many joints in the human body as possible. And, these joint locking techniques have to be precise. If they're not precise, they won't work in combat. And that's what turns a lot of karate people off. I had a guy years ago, a 6th Dan in Ishinru, come into my dojo. And at the time, I was only a 4th Dan, right? So he'd been training longer than me. And I was teaching some self-defense, and I showed a joint locking technique. And when I went over to him, he said, "Oh, those don't work." I said, "Oh, they don't?" He says, "No." I said, "Okay." So he grabbed, and when he went to resist, I made him scream, okay? And he's like, "Oh, my God." And then he tried to resist again, and I made him yelp again, okay? And he said to me, I've never seen anybody that can make them work. I said, well, right. So you're blaming someone's technical proficiency rather than saying, so you're saying the techniques don't work. No, it's not the techniques don't work, is that you can't make them work, okay? So the question is, how can I make them work? Well, you have to pressure test them. Now with joint locks, you got to be careful so you don't break somebody's arm, right? But there has to be some pressure testing, not in the beginning. In the beginning, nobody resists. You get a feel, and this way the confidence gets built with the pain. As soon as the person feels pain in the dojo, they tap, the person stops. They have to tap only when they feel pain, because this way it conditions you to not stop. So in combat, you won't stop. You'll follow through with the technique, either causing tears, sprains, or a break. All right. And, again, just something to keep in mind from the combat standpoint. Don't assume you break someone's arm, they're going to stop fighting. Because I can tell you from experience that's not necessarily the case. All right. UFC, guy gets put in an arm bar, he's tapping out. Hardcore criminals, they'll take a broken arm. Okay. Believe me. All right. So Konsetsu Waza, very important. Okay. So we've got strikes, we've got joint locks. All right. Shimewaza. Choking techniques. Are you proficient in choking techniques? Not just techniques where you use the clothing, right? But also what we call naked chokes. Can you apply naked chokes where you're just using your physical arms and hands to choke the guy out? Right? Now, I am not advocating that you practice choking people out to unconsciousness in the dojo. Not a good idea, okay? But I am advocating that you become skillful in chokes. I can tell you now, I've choked at least 15 people to unconsciousness. Never killed anyone, all right? I tell people all the time the key to choking someone is when you do it, you cannot be mad. So I know it's combat. The guy might have just tried to kill you. You choke him out. You got to pay attention to him. You can't be thinking, you son of a... No. You got to be holding him, wait. You feel him drop and pass out, and then you let go, okay? Why do we have to have chokes in karate? Well, because sometimes other techniques won't work. So if a guy's high on drugs or alcohol, maybe has severe mental problems, nothing may affect him. You may break his arm, he stands there and looks at you. You may punch him and break his ribs, break his jaw, he stands there and looks at you because the drugs coursing through his system he's not gonna stop. Everybody needs the blood to flow to their brain. Everybody needs the air to flow to their lungs. You cut either one of those off and you put the person to sleep. So no one can take a choke if it's done right. The other thing I'll mention is when you see the news media say things like, oh, he was choking him, or the criminal is saying, I can't breathe. So I demonstrated recently in my dojo. I said, okay, I'm going to put a choke on you, and I want you to say, I can't breathe. As soon as I put the choke on, every student was like, I couldn't say anything. I couldn't speak at all. Right. So when a choke is placed on you properly, there's no talking. If you're talking, you can breathe. Simple as that. Okay? So don't believe the bullshit that the media tries to say. The other thing, that chokeholds are dangerous and deadly. Of course they're dangerous and deadly. I tell my students when I teach them, you have a window. You have to pay attention to the guy you're choking out. You can't be mad while you're doing it. Totally focus on him. Once he passes out, you let him go. Okay? Like I said, I've choked numerous people out, never killed anyone. All right? In some regards, it's humane, right? Because I don't have to beat them half to death to control them and get them placed into custody, right? Or control them and stop them from harming me or harming someone else, all right? So, striking, joint locks, choking techniques. Throws. So, throws in karate? Okay. Well, in Ishinryu, just look at Wansu and Sansu Kata, right? So you have Kataguruma, which is a big throw. Shoulder wheel, right? You throw the guy over, okay? But anytime you go from stance to stance is a potential sweep throw, okay? Hook, all right? So many of the small throws we have in judo, we have them in karate, or sotogari, or sotoguruma, okay? So it's important you have throws in your repertoire, in your toolbox. All right. As you see on that video with Master Shimabuku, he does a hip throw on Steve Armstrong. He does joint throws on Steve Armstrong. So where he does a joint throw and Steve Armstrong kind of goes to the ground and rolls out, right? Yeah. So like in my dojo, I now have enough mats. I'll begin teaching the karate students how to take falls. And then they'll learn to throw a little bit, right? And again, are they going to be throwing like we do in a jiu-jitsu class? Absolutely not. However, they will become proficient and very proficient at certain throws, okay? This way they have that in their repertoire if they need it, okay? Because all combat arts have to possess all these things. If they don't possess those things, it's not a combat art, all right? And those of you sitting there saying, well, what about Tai Chi? Tai Chi has all of it, okay? Jiu-Jitsu has all of it. Oh, but Jiu-Jitsu's throws and joint locks. No. The strikes in Jiu-Jitsu are intended to seriously harm or kill the opponent, all right? So, strikes, joint locks, chokes, throws. Ground fighting. Karate has to have a ground fighting curriculum. Tatsuo Shimabuku had a simple ground fighting curriculum. You can see photos online of some of the Marines practicing it in the Agina dojo. Okay? Nothing fancy. We're not interested in being like Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. In combat, you don't want to stay on the ground with someone rolling around. You get knocked to the ground, you want to do something and get up as soon as possible. We always assume there's more than one adversary. We never assume there's only one. Okay? So our ground fighting curriculum, is not where we're looking to counter the guy and do this. No. We're looking to hurt him, even from our back, hurt him, and get up and get back in the fight. Okay? So ground fighting, you have to have a curriculum. You have to have close range, mid-range, and long-range techniques. Okay? You have to. All right? Most modern karate, the person gets in a karate stance and they come in with the punch and you know which hand is coming, and the other guy steps back, blocks, and then counters. Never work in combat. Never work in combat. Okay? So you want long range, close range, mid-range techniques. All right? This is vitally important. So when you put all these things together, you begin to have a seriously combat effective art. And if you're watching this and say, well, I don't have a ground fighting curriculum. Okay, well, you got to get one. You're an instructor. Go out, attend a workshop or seminar with somebody and learn some ground fighting techniques, right? Well, I'm not good at the joint locks. I don't know how to do them. Okay, well, attend a workshop. Come out here, spend 4 days with me. When you leave, your joint locks will be pretty good. All right. Same with throws. If you don't understand how to throw, learn how to throw. And again, you don't have to practice the big throws. You can do the small foot sweep throws. Osotogari, Kosotogake, all these different throws you can see in judo where they're just sweeping the feet, knocking the guy to the ground. So you can work on all that. All right. So that's some of the physical things that karate has to have. All right. If it doesn't have it, it's not a combat art, and it's not the original karate. All right. I teach people how to fight from sitting in a chair. I teach people how to fight from their back up against the wall. All right. I do training drills within karate that are designed to improve people's reflexes. I do training drills in karate to be as close to a real experience as someone can get. Again, in the beginning, we don't pressure test. As you become more proficient, as I like to say, we turn up the heat. I do no sports sparring in my dojo. Everything is close in. Opponents in front of you, attack you, you have to deal with the attack. What type of attack? The same type of attacks they're going to experience when society's predator tries to harm them or one of their family members or someone else that they just decide to help. Okay? There I have drills where against multiple opponents. I have drills where we cover the 8 points, the 8 directions of attack. I stand out. Everyone keeps an eye on me. I nod to a guy. He attacks from that angle. Now you're learning how to defend from a guy not just in front or in back, but the sides and the corners. So now the guy attacks from the angle this way. It's a little different, okay? And then what I do is I hand a knife, right? I hand a gun. I hand a club, right? And now, and then when we switch positions, someone will sneakily pass the knife to somebody else. So training drills like that all should be a part of karate if you want to do karate as a combat art. Never seen a fight in my life that looked like a karate sparring match. Never saw a fight in my life that looks like one of these Yakusoku Kumite drills I see a lot of these other styles do, where they step back, then they step in, and they step back. Never seen it. So, never seen one. Ever. So, other thing is if you're going to teach it as self-defense, you have to have a knife defense curriculum. Tatsuo Shimabuku had a knife defense curriculum. Very simple, nothing fancy, right? There is a story where he was attacked with a guy with a knife in the Philippines and managed to eliminate the threat. Okay, so knife defense, gun defense, all right, club defense. I even teach techniques against the chain. Okay, baseball bat. I go over all that stuff. So, again, it makes my classes, every night people walk in here, they have no idea what's going to happen. So, all of a sudden one night I bring out the rubber guns and they're like, oh, okay, what are we doing tonight? Oh, we're doing gun disarms. Another night, they come in and the mats are out. Oh, what do we do? Oh, we're working on ground fighting. All right. So it gives more material for the class. It makes the classes far more interesting. That's why in my dojo, I always have more adults than I have children. So, because I'm not teaching the same material and the same curriculum as the adults as I do the kids. The kids, it's all about fun and games. The adult class is about serious martial arts. Okay? So we got strikes, joint locks, chokes, throws. We've got ground fighting, right? We've got distances, mid, close, far range, right? We've got fighting from a chair, seated position. We've got fighting against the wall. We've got multiple training drills, okay? All right? We've got weapons defense. In 2013, my Taiji master Chen Jianghua asked me to attend his event in Daishishan, his mountain Taiji retreat that he has in China, not far from Jingdao. And I went, and he asked me before I came, he says, I want you to teach a seminar while you're here. And I was shocked because here I'm in China, the birthplace really of martial arts, and he wants me to teach a seminar. And I said, well, what do you want me to teach? He says, I want you to teach knife defense. I said, okay. So all his Chinese disciples attended my workshop, and there were people from all over the world there, all over Europe, everywhere, India. We used chopsticks as knives because the government wasn't thrilled with the fact that if I brought a bunch of rubber knives in, they'd be a little nervous about that. So we just used chopsticks. And I just started showing techniques and explaining my philosophy as how to deal with someone armed with a knife. And the European guys all came up to me, because most of them spoke some English, and said to me, we've never seen this approach to knife defense, but it makes total sense. But it's a shock to us. We've never seen it. And then throughout the rest of the week, because I did it early on, we were there for 10 days. I had a bunch of my students from my dojo there. So they obviously assisted in a knife defense. So throughout the week, many of the Chinese disciples of Master Chen's that had attended a workshop were stopping my New York students, asking them, could you show me that technique again? So they were very interested in it also. So again, you have to have this as part of the curriculum if you're teaching karate as self-defense. All right? And again, you say, well, in Okinawa, they didn't carry knives, or, they didn't do this or they didn't do that. Okay, we're not talking about Okinawa. So is karate a dead art or is it a living art? To me, it's a living art. I'm trying to improve it. Okay? The problem is too many people aren't trying to improve it. They're just beating the same horse to death over and over and over again. And, forget about Japanese karate, because Japanese karate is pretty much all strikes. That's all they do. Okay? I don't think you have to do full contact to be proficient in combat. I don't do full contact in my dojo. I feel it's too dangerous. Okay? We don't wear protective gear when we train. All right? So, other aspects, Hojo Undo, whether it be things like the chishi, the jars, weights, okay, heavy bag, all right, makiwara, obviously. So you do these things to develop, right? In Ishinru we have the basics, but they're the basics. They're called the basics for a reason. They're basics, all right? And people say, oh, there are no advanced techniques in karate. There are a lot of advanced techniques in karate. If you don't have advanced techniques, your martial art is shit. All right? Here's the problem. The first time you try to do an advanced technique, it's so far out of reach for you, you're like, oh my God, this is ridiculously hard. I'll never get this. Okay? Okay, fast forward a few years. Those initial techniques that you would thought were so advanced and so difficult, now you don't even think about doing them. So now a good instructor who has a lot of knowledge, has a vast catalog of things to teach you. Now he should be showing you even more difficult things. So this way your level is always going up. The sad thing here is that most people I see doing karate is they're at their sharpest when they make Shodan, first degree black belt. And then, after that, okay, and the dojo I came up in Ishinru, once I made Shodan, I didn't get any instruction. I'm looking at the head instructor. At the time, he was 6th Dan. I'm Shodan. And I'm like, okay, well, when are you going to show me now? Like all I hear you say is you start to learn at Shodan. Shodan's where the real training begins. Okay, I made Shodan. I'm all excited. Okay, so now what's next? What's next? Nothing. Nothing was next. I was on my own. So I had to just train myself and try to get it whatever I could from the other black belts. But he wasn't doing nothing, right? Well, that's not the case in my dojo. I mean, okay, am I a 9th Dan on paper, or I am a 9th Dan that shows I have a very vast, deep knowledge? Well, I'd like to think I have a very vast, deep knowledge. And people that are with me 30, 40 years. The last time I went to New York, I did Ishinru, and one of my guys with me 35 years says, I've never seen that before. Okay, so my philosophy is when I can't surprise you with something new, we've got a problem, because I'm always trying to improve myself. So I don't sit around thinking, well, I'm 9th Dan, I'm good. I can just sit around now and rest on my laurels. No, because I don't think I'm a 9th Dan. I mean, I think I'm recognized as one, but I'm still have a long way to go. I have so much more to learn. I think I can get so much better, right? So I'm constantly working in that direction. So if you want to teach a complete karate, these are the things you have to do. And again, you don't have to. You can do whatever you want. I say this all the time. I said, I'm just giving you my opinion, right? But do whatever you want, okay? But don't fool yourself into thinking you're teaching a self-defense art, all right, if you're never teaching any knife defense, right? If you're never teaching, a haymaker that tries to take off your head. If you're never teaching, well, what if I trip over my own 2 feet? Now the guy's on top of me, okay? What if you get shoved against the wall? What if there's 2 guys? What if there's 3 guys? What if you're sitting on a subway and now someone attacks you while you're sitting down, right? What if you're sitting in a restaurant and somebody comes over and attacks you while you're sitting down? So again, these are all things you want to do, all right? You want to train. It makes for much more interesting classes. I think adults appreciate it more. They see this is a serious place, all right? So just think about it, all right? Hope you've enjoyed this one. Again, I want to tell everybody how much I appreciate you all. We'll have more interviews coming up. I know Thomas Feldman, Joe Swift, all right? Bunch of people are in the queue, all right? Thomas Feldman's book, Yabukensu, I just found out it's arriving here on, it'll be arriving next Monday. Can't wait to delve into that book. So, and we have some other things maybe coming down the pike with the channel that we're talking about. Maybe having some panels where I do a thing where maybe I have 3 or 4 guys on and I just act as a moderator and we talk about maybe karate history or other things. And like I said, next week there'll be a new interview dropping with Master Chen Zhanghua, which I think a lot of people will find very interesting. All right. So once again, please click that like button, subscribe, share the video, consider becoming a member. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.